Shawn Myszka here from the new brand Movement Mastery at OptimizeMovement.com. On this video, I want to tell you a short story. This story will show you that I'm really not that much different from you, and I've likely always held very similar dreams as all others who work with athletes in their developmental process to help enhance performance out on the field, court, track, or rink. This story will also illustrate how and why the Movement Mastery brand ultimately came into existence. Finally, this story will show you how I have now gotten to the point where I can truly view myself as a movement specialist or a manager of an athlete's movement patterns, rather than being a strength and conditioning coach, a personal trainer, or even a physical preparation specialist. And I want you, no matter what your actual title and role consists of in the sports performance profession, to eventually be able to do the same. So bear with me as I set the tone for you here over the next number of minutes. The year was 2008, and for a little over a year at this point, my business partner and I had built a business that centered on making good athletes even better. But things finally had escalated to the point where I had always dreamed it would. A player from the National Football League had reached out to me to direct his training and preparation for the upcoming season. Aside from a brief stint doing some assistant strength and conditioning work for the Chicago Bears a handful of years prior to this point, this would be the very first athlete from the NFL that I would get the opportunity to personally lead through his physical preparation process. We had lots of other high school and collegiate athletes, and even a few professionals scattered in other sports, who'd all reached significant achievements in their respective sports, but training football players who play at the elite levels are really what I had always aspired to be professionally. Long story short, I tested this athlete out, and we're going to call him Ernie for confidentiality reasons. Honestly, I couldn't believe how far he had fallen since the numbers that he had put up just a few years before that at the NFL Combine. I went ahead and planned everything out in my perfectionist nature, leaving no apparent stone unturned. And I was so super proud of how this was going to work out. I was confident that the NFL was about to have no clue what had even hit them, and it would only be a matter of time before the whole league would take note of Ernie's new freakdom. By the end of the 12-week period we had spent preparing, Ernie had made what I thought to be a complete transformation. He had increased every physical quality imaginable. He had gained 10 pounds while losing 4% body fat. His maximum strength in his squat went up by 70 pounds. His 40 time went down by a quarter of a second, all while increasing his vertical jump by 9 inches and his horizontal jump by 15. All these values got to the point where they easily exceeded each of his combine numbers. Now, if you've ever worked with an athlete of a higher level of mastery or qualification, you will know that these types of physical improvements are nearly unheard of. But remember, this was no ordinary training program. This was the doing of the amazing Shawn Myszka, and I was in the process of changing the whole damn world here. Now, Ernie was already a starting tight end in the league, but I was convinced that with my work as a catalyst, we were going to be the ones to set the tones for players and announcers using the term beast mode before it was even cool to do so. I could not wait for the season to begin. I sent him off to training camp like a proud papa watching his firstborn get on a kindergarten bus for the first time. I remember sitting down to watch Ernie's first preseason game of the season, and I remember thinking to myself, this was going to be simply awesome. Forget LeBron James and Nike witness claims that they make. People were about to see sheer domination, and it was going to be the result of what I had single-handedly created. Oh, and maybe Ernie's work to a certain degree as well. Of course, my friends had heard nothing from me for weeks except about this topic, so much that you probably thought I was Dr. Frankenstein reincarnated and Ernie was just my monster. Unfortunately, much to my dismay, to say that the result was a tad different from what I had envisioned or anticipated would actually be putting it pretty lightly. Simply put, the product that I and everyone else saw on the field that day did not look any different than the player that everyone saw 8 months prior when Ernie completed the previous season. Did he look worse? No, I don't think I'd probably go as far as saying that, so at least I had an ounce of dignity remaining. However, he surely didn't look so different on the field that someone would have used him as a poster child for the next best thing in physical development in the league, let alone a picture of sport movement optimization. Thank God a coach's legacy isn't judged by one athlete's progress or one athlete's performance. However, I was shocked and utterly confused. What could have gone so terribly and horribly wrong? I looked back at Ernie's results. How did he not go beast mode? As much as I wanted to blame it on this one game, this did not turn out to be a viable option. Instead, it turned out to be simply a microcosm of the entire season as each game continued to unfold in front of him in a very similar fashion. At this moment of truth, a lot of thoughts ran through in my head. They played over and over again, kind of like a bad record that skips repeatedly. Am I not as good as I think I am? Is this really the profession for me? What qualifications and credentials could I actually be lacking? Am I really only adequate at working with low-level athletes? And most often the thing that continued to go through my head was, how did I fail Ernie, and am I only going to repeat this failure with each and every athlete that will come to me after him? I was pretty damn confused and honestly pretty damn depressed about the whole thing. We've all had what I refer to as our Robert Frost moments, where there are two roads diverged in a trail, and we have a choice that can impact our future to a magnitude that we can't even begin to fathom when we're making that decision. Though only time will tell, I believe that I personally was able to take the right path, and one of my hopes is that this experience down this path is going to represent another road for each and every one of you that may absorb any content here on OptimizeMovement.com. Fortunately for me, I concluded then and there that I must simply investigate what it is that makes athletes tick where it counts, which is in their sport, and more specifically, while they are performing the actual movement tasks that are important for their success while in the sporting arena. From there, I knew I must strive to more fully understand the most optimal operating procedures for selecting the proper methods to be utilized in all training settings, and to ensure that those were the ones that were going to equate to the most positive transfer on the field or in the sport. Quite frankly, I set out to guarantee that what happened to Ernie that season would never happen again with any athlete that would entrust me with their preparation from that day forward. In case you're wondering, by some crazy act of God, Ernie continued to train with me again after the season, though I wouldn't have blamed him one bit if he hadn't, as his season in that one, I failed him greatly. However, I had my reality check. I drastically changed my approaches towards his development, helped him hone his craft and attain greater mastery in his sport demands, and ultimately reach much fuller levels of potential. So much so that the next season, it became very noticeable when he stepped on a football field that he was a different being. And I thank God every single day for bringing Ernie and what his experience with him, with me, represents in my professional life, because it significantly changed the direction of my training philosophy for the remainder of time to come. You see, Ernie, and so many others like him across this country, is one of the reasons I felt that the Movement Mastery brand must be founded. Sadly enough, Ernie's situation is the norm across all sports at all levels. If you've coached, trained, or even spent any time whatsoever around athletes, it's inevitable that you have personally trained or at least witnessed an athlete who will make extraordinary progress, perform like a total champion on all of our cute little standardized tests, and then still don't have it when it counts on the field, court, or track. Fortunately, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be this way. My crusade now is to show all sports performance professionals that we must go beyond attempting to make athletes bigger, faster, and stronger in the weight room or in non-organic drills. Now my goal with each athlete of mine is to bridge his or her individual technical display of movement to the levels of specific motor potential required to perform that task most optimally. And I'm always striving to match that athlete's level of preparedness with the level of sport qualification that they play at, with the level of movement mastery required to perform there at the highest possible potential. And that entire process to that goal always centers on the improvement of the movement and the art of optimizing that movement where it counts, which is only within the context of that sport that is being played. I believe I have begun to now overcome that traditional and sometimes conservative mindset to see something that everyone else saw before, but now through a much different lens. One that's focused on investigating the details of what is happening in the movement preparation process, and more importantly, accurately determine why it's happening this way, so I'm able to more optimally take that athlete in the most efficient path to sport-specific functional performance enhancement. All in all, I've come to this important realization, and I want to offer that reality check to you today as well. The thing is, it's time for a paradigm shift. Our professions need it, our sports need it, and most importantly, our athletes need it. Athletes are putting forth an extraordinary amount of effort in most cases, but in most of those cases, the results that they see where they want it to be shown the most is very limited. In my often not so humble opinion, this is because we, as sports performance professionals, forget that the athlete's movement is really the core of what everything else resides on. That movement being displayed in the execution of the actual sport tasks in the organic environment, their sport is of utmost importance. So that is why Movement Mastery and OptimizeMovement.com now exists. We are here to help educate you on things that I've learned along the way and continue to learn daily about the complex world of optimizing sport movement. I hope you'll join me on this ride because I believe that it's going to be a joy. Till then, let's all continue to master the art of optimizing movement.